Hey, so I'm gonna make you a quick video. I know you're having a little bit of trouble with this graphing. So let's see if I can help you out a little bit with this. So I'm gonna give you a couple of examples of some of the problems we've done and just how they look and see if you can solve them from there. So if I give you one that looks like this right here, okay, one of the basic forms that we need. And from what it looks like, you've been okay with being able to solve these. So, finding your vertices, your p-value, all that good stuff. So as long as you can find those, remember when you go to graph that you always want to use your vertices first. And we know for this one, our vertex would be 0, 0. Okay. But to be able to actually see this picture, you always want to solve for y. So to do this one's a little easy. All we want to do here is divide by 8. So I know x squared over 8 equals y. Okay. So then what I would tell you to do is go to your calculator and y equals, so let's see if I can pull this up here. If I can get it to work this morning. So what I want you to try to do is go to y equals, and we're actually going to type that value in here. So I know I would have x squared divided by 8. And we can see the graph is this parabola here. So remember, you always graph your vertex. And then I'm going to go to second graph, the table, and you just want to pick one more point to graph. Okay. So my last plus will help you graph the rest of it as long as you have the vertex and one other point. So as long as I pick this one, 4, 2. So put your point at 0, 0, and then find your other point, 4, 2, and your graph will be finished. Okay. So that's one way to do it. So let's look at a different example. So let's try out a little bit different one. So let's say you have one like this, x plus 1 squared equals, what was the example? 5y minus 2. So this one's a little bit harder to graph. So again, remember to be able to find your vertices and all that good stuff. For this one, we only use h and k. So this one would be -1, +2. So that's where you always start, are those vertices. But to solve for this one, we want to get y by itself. So I'm first going to divide by 5. So I have x plus 1 squared divided by 5 equals y minus 2. And the last step we need is to add 2 to the entire problem. So when you type this in, x plus 1 squared divided by 5, and then we're doing plus 2. Sometimes when you type this out in your calculator, what I would advise you to do is put parentheses around it like this, because when you try to type it, it sometimes can mess that value up. Let me show you what I mean when we type this in. So y equals again, I'm going to do parentheses x plus 2 squared divided by 5. I think it was plus 2. I'm sorry, it was x plus 1, wasn't it? Let me change that. It was x plus 1 squared divided by 5. I'm going to close the parentheses, and then we had plus 2. Okay, so when I graph this one, oh, what did I mess up on? Put too many parentheses. I'm telling you not to mess them up. You do not need this parentheses here. So then when I graph, we see our parabola again. So then go to second graph and pick another point from your table. You know we're starting with that vertex, and then we're going to use 4, 7. Okay. So let's take a look at one more other type of this. So I'm going to erase some of this. You can always pause this video and go back to it, because the last type I want to show you, and this will kind of apply for all of this stuff, is what if I have one, let's see, well, where did my example go? So you could have one like this. Remember, this is just a little bit easier. You always want to have y by itself. And we don't ever want a negative y, so I'm going to go ahead and add my y over. So then right away I have x squared minus 2 equals y. Okay, so that's in y form right away. We can go ahead and graph that. Any other ones that you feel like might trip you up with graphing, please let me know a specific example. I'll be more than happy to go over it with you, but the biggest thing you're trying to do is solve for y. Okay, if you want to, I can write all of these steps. Let me clear this off. So, first thing, solve for y. Always make sure it's in y equals. Second, on MyLabs Plus, you're always using the little button that will either look like this way or this way, the graph. Okay, graph your vertex first. Always graph that first, and then finally go to second graph on your calculator. You're going to pick one other point to graph. Okay. So as long as you have one other point, it does not matter what that point is, it will always work out. Okay. Just one other point.